But I'm not calling for anybody's job. I mean, that's a man that I hold high in high regard with Coach T and how he carries himself and how he takes a lot of criticism. But he comes in here and he still is a great leader. So, I understand the frustration, but calling for somebody's job is just something that I'm not up for. So, we'll be better because they're used to winning. They're used to, putting Lombardi's in a trophy case. So, we just, like I keep saying, we just got to hold up our end of the bark.
DK Metcalf talking about all the noise surrounding Coach Mike Tomlin. And this is his first rodeo with the Steelers. So, he's still kind of new to this. He's got his $35 million per year contract, and all of a sudden he's on this team that has been a model of stability, and it feels like it's anything but stable. We welcome Andrew Fillipponi of 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh, part of the PM team. I appear there every Wednesday afternoon. We have wrangled Andrew 3 times this year for the solo-only editions of PFT Live, but it really does feel different this time. I'm accustomed to that segment of the fan base. Anytime there's 2 or 3 losses in a row, fire Tomlin, they typically quiet down. Man, it feels different this time, doesn't it?
It doesn't from my perspective, Mike, because for years, whenever the Steelers would lose a game, as you're talking about, I would go on the air the following day and be inundated with people that would call into our show or talk to us and say, Mike needs to go. But to your larger point, it crosses the Rubicon from sports talk topic where you're an outlet for angry, disenchanted, disillusioned fans to your paying customer, your most loyal fan showing up at a game and chanting fire Tomlin and booing the Steelers rally cry renegade in the second half. And so for a long time, I've separated the people who interact with us from maybe the average fan. But that game Sunday showed me that the average fan now shares the same opinion as what I think Art Rooney wanted to believe was a very vocal minority, the people who wanted Mike Tomlin gone. Now you're getting, I think, your most even-keeled, level-headed, not just Steelers fans, but people who've covered the Steelers for a very long time saying, look, this thing has run its course. It's probably time for both parties to go their separate ways.
And I think, and we were talking about this yesterday on your show, and we were talking about during the break, when you look at the upcoming schedule, they have the game in Baltimore. If that game doesn't go the Steelers' way, and who knows at this point how that one's going to go, because both teams right now have seemingly more flaws than they have strengths. But if the Steelers lose that game, the next game is a Monday night, primetime, Miami Dolphins. Great opportunity for fans to vote with their feet and put their feet up on their ottoman and watch the game on TV while they sip eggnog 10 days from Christmas. Because I'm telling you, if I was a season ticket holder, I'm not showing up for that game if they lose and fall to 6-7 on Sunday.
Very little secret that I don't think the NFL fans around the country and world, I don't think they know this, but Steelers fans notoriously are actually anti-primetime games. They prefer a 1 o'clock Sunday game every week. They're old-fashioned in that way. They're not really a fan base that wants to brave the elements and go out and kick a game off at 8:20 and then get home after midnight. It's not really their thing. So you already start there as having an issue with creating a raucous home environment for a primetime game. Then you add in what you just said. And I really believe that Sunday afternoon in Baltimore is one of the biggest games Mike Tomlin has ever coached in. I think it's almost a Waterloo-like game for him where this narrative that's out there right now that's everywhere, it's ubiquitous. He has an opportunity, if he can upset Baltimore, to at least staunch that bleeding for a week, maybe longer. If they win, they'll be in first place. They'll have upset Lamar on the road. If they lose, then I think what you're going to have Monday night against Miami is a stadium that's at best at 2/3 capacity. And the people that show up there, Mike, many of them are not going to be there to wave a terrible towel and sing the Steelers polka song. They're going to be there to do the same thing they did in the second half of the Bills game, to let the owner and the coach know we're here because we're not down with what's happening. And we want you to hear, we want the national Monday Night Football audience to know that what's going on in Pittsburgh isn't good enough, and we're sick of it. And I think it's going to be probably one of the ugliest scenes we've ever seen at a Steelers game since that stadium opened in 2000.
It's amazing to think of it that way because I watched all of Mike Tomlin's press conference on Tuesday. He seems very unbothered. He seems very confident in just kind of a casual, nonchalant sort of way. And I told you this yesterday. My take on it all is after 19 years, and that's a ridiculously long time for the same team to have the same head coach in today's NFL. After 19 years, you just get into a comfortable rut. And I think you get to a point where you realize, why am I going to, guzzle antacids and pull out my hair and live and die with every single game when I'm confident we're going to win enough, that we're going to be relevant in December. We'll see how each season plays out, and then we'll load it up and do it again. And the money keeps flowing. The fans keep showing up. I keep getting paid $16 million a year. Why am I going to drive myself crazy over the fact that I haven't won a playoff game since 2016? And I think that both team and coach can fall into a spot where they just get too comfortable. And I think the fans making it uncomfortable is the thing that's going to potentially wake one or both sides up.
I think you get Mike Tomlin answering that question Tuesday about the fire Tomlin chance the way that he did, a smile on his face saying, I generally agree with them. I agree with people that are saying these mean things about me because we're in the sports entertainment business, and he's really kind of laughing it off as he says it. I think that happens only when a coach believes in his heart that there's a 0% chance of him getting fired. It has infinite job security. I think if this were a coach, say Kevin Stefanski, or name any other coach who might be on a hot seat, I think they're more sensitive to the question. There's probably more of an awkward answer in that situation. With Mike, I just think, given who he works for and the way he knows his bosses historically felt about him, that it's an impossibility that he's fired. At least he feels that way right now. Mike, you made a good point, I thought, yesterday when you brought up the fact that one of the other things that has caused this divide, this wedge between the Steelers fans and Mike Tomlin is the proclamations that were made not only by him but his players about the performance of their defense this year. He did not shy away from the idea that this defense was going to be among the greatest in NFL history, that we'd be talking about them with the Legion of Boom Seahawks and the 2000 Ravens and the 85 Bears and the 70 Steelers and the 2008 Steelers and all of those teams. And almost every week when they lose, there is some historical footnote about the struggles of their defense, where if you put it in the context of all-time Steelers teams, we've never seen anything quite like it in a negative way. And you would think an owner who is spending $170 million on defensive players, almost $20 million on a defensive coach, would be livid over the return on investment. Business owners do not like spending way more than their peers and getting far worse results. And that's what's happened here. So I just wonder if that wakes up the owner. Wait a second. Why am I doling out and shelling out all this money for what is supposed to be the best defense in the NFL? And we can't even hold the Bills under 240 rushing yards at home, Mike. That's what I wonder about, too, in this situation.
I was on radio in Seattle last night, and the issue of Tomlin came up. It's the biggest story, one of the biggest stories in the NFL. And one of the things I said there, and I wonder if this factors into Art Rooney's thinking. If you move on from Tomlin, number one, who are you going to get to replace him and how good are you going to be? Number two, where's he going to go and how well is he going to do? And I don't know that Art Rooney thinks about that, but how can you not think about it? Because your fans are going to think about it. Because that's the next step. And I think that's one of the reasons why Mike Tomlin can smile in the face of questions about fire Tomlin chance. I think he's got a high degree of confidence that Art Rooney doesn't have the confidence that he can find someone better to make the most out of a product that is flawed. The talent is flawed. And I think you could say Tomlin's superpower is he's managed over the years to get more out of the individual parts collectively than others could. But that's what I've always said to my friends, because I got a text chain with 4 guys I've known since I was very young. And 2 of them are quick to say fire Tomlin. And I always say you got to think about what the next coach is going to be. Do you think Art is factoring that into this analysis at all? I better be careful because the next guy may not be anywhere close to Mike Tomlin in overall coaching capability.
Well, they're 3 for 3 going back to 68. They haven't gotten a coaching hire wrong. For as much as I criticize and question Mike Tomlin's ability to rally this team and put this team in position to compete for Super Bowls again, there's no denying that it was a good hire. He won a Super Bowl when he was in his mid-30s. He was the youngest coach in NFL history at the time to win a Super Bowl. He went to another one 2 years later. Bill Cowher, same thing. Right off the bat, inheriting a 7-9 team, won the division. Shortly thereafter was in the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl. Obviously, Chuck Noll's resume speaks for itself. So, I do think there's a little bit of paralysis by fear. When, now it's on me. I have to hire the next guy. And my dad was 3 for 3 on hires, and all 3 of those men are going to be in the Hall of Fame. I think Mike Tomlin ends up in Canton one day. So I do think that that's part of it. And what you said about him finding greener pastures, I absolutely believe is a consideration too. Because, yes, everyone says Andy Reid landed on his feet in Kansas City, but to the Eagles' credit, even though they've cycled through some coaches, they've won a couple Super Bowls. And I think that there is absolutely a concern among the Steelers ownership group that, all right, if we move on from this guy, how do we find the next Mike Tomlin? Because I don't know how much Art Rooney is involved in the overall selection of Mike's coaching staff. If he is part of that process, well, then that hasn't been good, because one of, I think, the failures of Mike Tomlin lately is he has not surrounded him with good young coaches. Mike, there's nobody in the pipeline. When Bill Cowher left, you had Russ Grimm, you had Ken Whisenhunt, and then they got knocked off their feet by Mike Tomlin, and Whisenhunt went on to take another team to the Super Bowl. There's nobody here that's knocking on the door. There's no succession plan. There's no Gerard Mayo. And I wonder if that's part of the fear that the Steelers succumb to here, and why they fall back on stability and loyalty and continuity with coach.
Patriots fans would say it's a good thing there's no Gerard Mayo in the building.
Yeah.
That's not exactly, that didn't work out very well in New England, but you're right. And I remember Bill Cowher recommended Chan Gailey for the job when Bill Cowher left. Gailey, I think, was already gone by then, but that was the name that he put out there as his successor. And you're right, they were blown away by Mike Tomlin, and the rest is history. I don't want to get too philosophical here, but I just looked it up. Art Rooney II was born in 1952, and this has been the family business for the 73 years of his life. He came of age. He grew up. His childhood was a revolving door of coaches. John Michelosson, Joe Buck, Walt Kiesling, Buddy Parker, Mike Nixon, Bill Austin, those were all the coaches between the time Art Rooney was born and the time he turned 16 and they hired Chuck Noll. So I feel like at some level, he's got to have a fear of returning to the days where they can't get it right, and all of a sudden they're like one of these other teams like the Cardinals that every 3 or 4 years is firing a coach. He doesn't want that in his life. He doesn't want it at this stage of his life at 73. And that's why I think even if the stadium is 2/3 full for the December 15 Dolphins game, and the vast majority of those people are chanting Fire Tomlin and booing Renegade and throwing stuff on the field and whatever they may do, I don't know that moves the needle, because I think at some level Art Rooney does not want to be the one who started this return to the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Because people think the Steelers have always been this way. No. For nearly 40 years, they were as dysfunctional as a team could be. I don't think Art wants to be the one who fulfills the old sandals to sandals in 3 generations mantra.
The one thing, though, that I do think the Steelers have evolved into that is similar to those like pre-dynastic Steelers teams, the one thing that is, I think, now a common trait between those losing Steelers teams and this current Steelers team is generations of Steelers fans were taught that what separated the winning Steelers teams from the losing Steelers teams is that they built through the draft. They had an amazing scouting department with the great Bill Nunn, who went out to the historically black colleges and found these great players. And they were on the cutting edge of that, and they were pioneers, and that gave them a competitive advantage in the 70s and whatnot. They have gone back to those days you're talking about, those dark days in Steelers histories, Mike, where they're not drafting well anymore. And now we're just bringing in every veteran player we possibly can. Oh, Darius Slay, you're not working out? Let's find a 35-year-old Adam Thielen to play wide receiver. Let's trade assets for DK Metcalf. Let's make a trade for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. Those were the things that were instilled in us that the Steelers used to do under those previous coaching regimes. They didn't trust rookies. They didn't believe in the draft. Well, they shifted and pivoted from that. And that's when the dynasty, and that's when the Steelers took off. So to me, that's very similar. Obviously, the coaching thing is way different, but they're already becoming a team that has to act desperately, Mike, and has kind of lost the plot when it comes to the process that made them good in the first place.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.